feel like I'm being petty with this because, like, I'm obviously a grown-up and I understand that it has to happen.
For me, it's a no-brainer.
That's, again, me being a little petty, maybe a little spoiled.
Hey, y'all, it's LJ here, owner and founder of Smart Moms Plan Disney and Smart Moms Travel. We are so glad you're here for another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. Now, here's your host, Allie.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. We are so excited after taking a short break, wrapping up season 1, to be returning now with new episodes, new ideas, and new content for all of our listeners. Welcome to season 2. I am here today with LJ and Chris. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
And we are so excited to kick things off in our second season by talking about the Disney bubble. This is something that, as regular Disney goers, people that know what we're talking about when we talk Disney, we know what the Disney bubble is. And I think we take for granted that we know exactly what that is. And some of our listeners are maybe thinking, is this a whole episode about those overpriced bubble wands on Main Street? And while those are Disney bubbles, that is not the bubble we are talking about here today. We are talking about something completely different. The Disney bubble, is it a feeling? Is it a state of being? Is it a location? What is the Disney bubble?
For me, the Disney bubble is protected land where I do not have to think about my normal life, the stressors therein. I don't have to think about anything else but what is happening right now. And I think it especially refers to when you're staying on property and you get to stay inside that bubble the entire vacation. Not to knock offsite stays, but there's just something about not needing to go back to the real world for a while.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of everything. It's a combination of that physical location. When you're coming into Walt Disney World, you're seeing the sign, everything changes, but it's also that state of being, the state where you feel the Disney magic wash over you, knowing that you do not have to be an adult anymore. You get to truly become that child within yourself, and you get to enjoy the magic from the time you wake up in the morning and either Mickey, maybe it's Stitch, maybe it's another character calling you to wake you up, to the time you lay your head back down on the pillow and you're hunting hidden Mickeys within your own hotel room. It's a complete state of magic, really.
I think that you both hit it exactly, right? You by staying on property, you are immersing yourself fully in the Disney bubble. And although this episode is not totally about staying on site, it is hard to discuss what that Disney bubble is without truly talking about, hey, staying in that bubble is what is going to level up your vacation in ways that, make it addicting for me to continue going back time after time and again. It is fully immersive. It's the experience. It is, and Chris, when you said, is it Stitch or Mickey calling? You legitimately mean calling.
Yes.
You can set wake-up calls from these characters that are going to tell your kids it's time to get up and have a wonderful day. And, when you drive onto property, for me, that's when it all begins. You go under the big sign that says Walt Disney World. It's never not exciting. Maybe this is what sets me apart from other people, and probably not sets me apart from the two of you, is that immediately when I go under that sign, I feel differently. I feel lighter. I feel happier. I feel like the air is better. I feel like the sounds are better. When you see those Disney buses and they say, heading to Magic Kingdom, it just makes me smile. And you drive that first time under the Skyliner and you just know you've made it. And you begin looking for park monuments. You may see Spaceship Earth, the Epcot ball, or you may see Tower of Terror first. And that first sighting is always so exciting. And that is when you truly know you're in a different world. You are in Walt Disney World. The street signs are purple and the electrical lines have Mickey heads on them.
That makes such a big difference for me. Like seeing those purple signs, like I love going under the arch and the, welcome to Walt Disney World, and you see Mickey and Minnie on the side. But as soon as you see those purple signs, which when you go and you're in that bubble and you see those, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those signs makes such a difference for me, because coming from out of state, we always, have to drive onto property, and then we always stayed on property growing up. And even as an adult now, I choose to stay within that Disney bubble because it makes such a big difference. And it's what I love about Disney World. It's one of the things that truly Disney himself, Walt Disney, that's one of his takeaways from building Disneyland is you could go, to the top of one of, the Disneyland hotel, and you look out over Anaheim and you're seeing other places. You can go walk across the street and see McDonald's or Panera. And at Disney World, once you get in that bubble, it's Disney controlled, and it's that Disney magic that is bled through everything that you need to keep the magic alive. And that's one of the reasons I personally love to be in Disney World, is solely for this bubble. Like, I could not go into the park for a day and just explore the bubble. And it's one of the reasons I truly cannot not stay on property. It's one of those moments where it's like, it wouldn't make it a Disney vacation unless I'm in that bubble.
Well, yeah, if you're visiting Disney World and you're driving onto property for your park days and you're not immersing yourself in that bubble, it's almost like you're a visitor or a guest on your own vacation. You're coming in and out of that magic. And for me, the state of feeling like I'm in another realm, I'm in another world, that is what I personally need from vacation, is a complete checkout of reality. And that's what Disney World is.
And this isn't widely known, but Disney actually differentiates their guests. A guest that's just there for the theme parks and isn't staying overnight, they will call you a day guest. And then when you're actually staying, you're a guest. And I just learned this when I was staying off property and needing something, and overheard them saying like a day guest is in need of whatever it was back in the day. I feel like that really sums it all up, is like, you're just kind of there for the day. You're not like immersed in it. I was a hardcore off-site stayer, not like the two of you. Like, I had to find my own path to being on site. I stayed off site a lot of times before the first time I ever decided to give on site a try.
How many times did you stay off site?
I stayed off over 15 times. I love Disney. I had a great time, but I was definitely like pinching pennies. Honestly, I didn't even really know how to do the math well, because when you do stay off site, there's a lot of hidden fees and a lot of things that you really need to add up to compare to the cost of an actual Disney package. And I don't think I was doing that well. So it looked like staying on iDrive was significantly less expensive than hitting up All Star Sports. And there really isn't that big of a difference in cost, especially if you're smart about it. Like, I was like, there's no way that the cost can be made up for. And I even made fun of this idea of the Disney bubble. Like, there's no way. The only reason that I ever tried on site was people would win that argument over me every time, because they would say, well, have you stayed on property and compared the two? And I would always have to be like, no.
Yeah, it's like, so you don't know.
Yes. And I hated that. So I ended up telling Mike, like, we've got to just try it. I want to be able to say that I'd done it. He was down, and we did it and haven't looked back.
Yeah, and naturally, our conversation is drifting into what it means to stay in the Disney bubble, because I really think that's an important factor when you're thinking about your vacation. When you walk into the theme parks, which you can do as a day guest, as you mentioned, LJ, or an on-site visitor for the week or however long you're staying, you can do it either way, very obviously. However, that feeling that you're getting when you're going in those parks, the lightness that I feel and the happiness and the childlike demeanor I can take on when I'm entering Magic Kingdom, those are things that I can feel for the entirety of my vacation, when I don't have to process driving onto property and fighting that traffic and navigating the parking and all of those things that you kind of have to do that take away from your vacation a little bit. I think a lot of people also don't realize how many other things there are to do in the bubble. Disney is a complete world, of theme parks and dining, of course, but there are other experiences going on within that bubble that, as an on-site guest especially, are easier to enjoy and really make a more complete vacation, for your family.
And really easily accessible. Like, when you're staying on property and you're in that Disney bubble, you have access to the Disney transportation. So that's one of the reasons why growing up, it was so fun for me. You know, as a kid, I think the first time we went to Disney World, I think I was about 9 years old. And then we went kind of every other year for a few years. And even now as an adult, seeing my dad and back when I was a child, my grandpa, getting to watch these very strong men that, you know, are the head of the household and taking care of business. When we would get there, it's bringing tears to my eyes thinking about it, because they would become children. And I got to see that as a child myself, and seeing that bubble create that simply because they didn't have to get in the van and drive us all to the park, or they just got to be, like you said, that childlike state. And watching that happen, and now knowing that I get to do that with my own child, and having them see me totally, you know, unhook from the world and really enjoy that magic that Disney created in his bubble, it makes it something that, and like you said, LJ, until you experience it, you don't know the difference. And it's something that I think they do such a great job on, because it totally is that wave of coming over you. Because even on those rest days when you're not going into the parks, you could go to Disney Springs and still check out the World of Disney store, or build some Legos, or you could go over to the boardwalk and grab some ice cream. Like, there's so much more to the Disney bubble than just the theme parks. And it's one of the things, actually last night, my husband and I were talking about, he's been on a Disney cruise. I have not yet. And we are talking about doing it as a family. And he was like, can we just please not do a land and sea vacation? He doesn't want to go to Disney World right after, because they did it on Christmas. So it was a little hectic, and he's not a super big like people person. And so we are going to go down a day or two early and just hang out in the Disney bubble, and then go jump on the cruise and come back, stay in the Disney bubble again, and then come home, and make it a really relaxing trip, and make it something that I don't think a lot of places, you don't have the same type of offerings, even at other like full inclusive resorts and things like that. You can't go and see a Cirque du Soleil show, go golfing, and have a massive shopping and eating district at other all inclusives. And Disney does that.
Exactly. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. You can utilize the Disney bubble without even going to the theme parks. For listeners that maybe don't know what we're talking about or can't relate to the understanding, would you say that the bubble is more of a feeling, an experience, or what would you say to somebody that has no idea what we're even talking about?
I feel like it's an experience. I think that prior to me understanding that, put me back into like 14 LJ, where I hadn't stayed on property, and I had just, you know, stayed at the Red Lion. And like, what I didn't grasp at that time, that there was something so much better. This is great. This is fabulous. I felt like I was getting the best of both worlds, where I felt like I was experiencing Disney and yet also being able to save my money. And honestly, I always felt like Disney was going to end up with my money either way, because I was just going to book another trip, and I was using, you know, credit card points and things like that to try to stay as often as possible. But it wasn't until I stayed on property and experienced all the different aspects. It's like you said, Allie, like all the things that you don't know are actually happening. You can swim at your hotel pool off property, or you can rent a pool home and you can swim. But you're not going to get the pool parties that happen at the Disney resorts. You're not even aware that those things are happening. And that's just literally just one aspect. It's like that on repeat over and over as you figure things out that they're offering. You know, the fishing for the kids, and the campfires, and the movies at night, and the little shows, and the little games, and the treasure hunts, and the overall feeling that Disney has about delighting their guests. Their cast members are trained to go that extra mile for each individual guest. I feel like I just didn't understand that there was this way better, far more leveled up experience that other people were having at Disney.
Because I think what it comes down to is when you are staying out of the bubble, you are experiencing Disney parks.
Yes.
When you stay in the bubble, you are experiencing Disney World. And Disney World is so much more than Disney parks.
Allie, you seriously just gave me chills when you said that. I think that was so well said.
I think that's it. And I think Disney parks are amazing, and they're the clear draw, but they are not the only draw. So we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive really far deep into the Disney bubble and why Disney World is about more than just its parks. Hey, Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast listeners. Have you joined our online communities yet? You can find us on Facebook and on Instagram at Smart Moms Plan Disney Podcast, where we're connecting daily with listeners, answering questions, and sharing our favorite Disney memories. Joining one of our communities, especially on Facebook, is like pulling up your own chair and joining the conversation yourself. Why let Tuesday be the only day you hear from us? Come join us to continue episode conversations, or maybe even tell us if you disagree with something we've said. We're planning trips, offering tips, and ready for you to pull up your chair. So follow the links in our show notes and join us at Smart Moms Plan Disney Podcast on Facebook and on Instagram. Welcome back, everyone. We are talking today about the Disney bubble and what it means as it pertains to Disney World. We are going to jump now into our sevens, our segment where we take the seven dwarves and their personalities and apply them to the topic of today, which is, of course, the Disney bubble. Starting with happy, because who doesn't like to be happy? Going right off of everything else we've been saying so far today in this episode, the things that make us happy about being in the Disney bubble. There are so many. One, of course, is LJ, you mentioned right before we took a break about Disney cast members. Those are the employees, the people that work at Disney. It doesn't matter what the job is. Anybody that's helping Walt Disney World run. They're called cast members. And when you're inside the bubble, whether you are at the theme parks, one of your resorts, or one of the other activities that Disney World has to offer, you feel like you are part of the show. And that is what makes the bubble so special. These cast members are there to truly take your stress away. You know, we'll be sitting at a wonderfully gorgeous pool, you know, maybe at the Polynesian, we're looking at the castle, and there's a bar, and the bartender is a cast member that's making sure I have everything I need. And the lifeguard is playing a game with my kids, and there's a music dance party happening, and Mickey tie-dye is going on. And these are things that have nothing to do with the Magic Kingdom, you know, the big draw why we came, but it still ends up being one of my kids' favorite days.
It really is that Disney difference. Like, you hear people talk about it in, you know, Disney conversation topics, that Disney difference when it comes to their customer service. And like you said, the cast members, and it's really all about them. Like, the cast members truly make the magic. And I'm not talking about the cast members that are friends with some of our favorite characters in those highlighting moments. They are part of the magic. But I'm talking about those bus drivers that wake you up in the morning and get you pumped when it's your first day and you're heading to Magic Kingdom, or it's the custodial workers that are creating literally art out of water on the concrete, or like the front desk at your resort, and they're taking care of every little minute, and they're giving you the buttons when you first get there, and they're showing you the map, and just really truly welcoming you home. Because for me, that's really what it is. And I know the DVC, Disney Vacation Club, calls it, and they'll say, welcome home. I have those moments where it feels like I'm coming home. Like, this is a second home for me, because that entire world truly sets the difference up.
Completely. That's exactly it. And, you know, staying on site and staying in the bubble, as we've said, does just make this more of a destination, more than just I'm here to check some boxes and leave. You know, you're also here to discover. LJ, you mentioned fishing before, which I think is a really great example of something that's going on Disney property that people don't know about. And you've done it with your son, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've done it a few times, and it's always been a huge hit. While we're on this topic, I think this goes right along with something that makes me happy about Disney. And that is that mom gets to be on vacation while you're at Disney property. So when I'm fishing, if I were to just gather up my children and get into the van and go take them fishing, there would be like a lot of work that would need to go into that. Like, I need to know what kind of fishing poles, I need lures. I guess I got to get worms. I got to get all the things, right? Life jackets. I need to find out where I'm going. Where am I going to fish? Where is even has fish around here that, like, you know, like, that's a big, like, part of being a mom, like all that mental work that we do And at Disney, like, that is just completed for you. We would like to go fishing. Here's the place. They've chosen a place that has like easy to catch fish that just continue to come back and bite the hooks and bite the hooks and bite the hooks. My kids are delighted.
Even the fish at
Yes.
Disney are trained. They're ready to bite your hook.
That's right. Like, everything's done. They're like, here's your worms. They're, you know, there's the little boxes where the kids can stand if they're too short. Like, just, they've thought of all the things. Like, Disney's done all the work. And instead of, when you're staying off site and mom having to do everything, all that is done, and mom gets to be on vacation too. And that makes me really, really happy.
It's perfect. That is so perfect, because you're still doing the things while you're at Disney World. My kids still need to eat 700 times a day. And my son is still going to be telling me he's hungry 1 million times a day. It feels like less stress. The mobile order is super simple, you know, and that's something you miss when you're off site. You're having your down day and my son is hungry, but my daughter isn't. I can quickly mobile order him something and it can be delivered to me at my pool chair. It's just easy. This summer, fishing is something on my kids' bucket list, and we're going to make it happen, but I'm stressed thinking about it. It's an entire day of planning and preparation and things I don't even know. And you said it perfectly. At Disney, that's done for me. And I did all the work to get us there. I love that these cast members have thought through everything else, and my brain can essentially shut off and go into autopilot.
Instead, like, the cast member is in that role. They're giving us the fishing pole. They're telling us, oh, over here, there's a really quiet spot where the fish like to be. And we're using fishing as the example, but it's like that in every aspect of all the things that you're doing throughout your vacation.
Yeah, exactly. I don't feel like a ton of people maybe are going to Disney to fish, right? But there are so many examples just like that are going on that you don't even realize, and it's taken care of for you. That is such a perfect example. And another thing that is just so much easier is I love that once my family parks at the airport, I'm from the Midwest, we have to fly to Disney. We do drive sometimes. The drive is long, and my kids thankfully do well. But typically we fly on an early morning flight. Once we drop our car off at the airport, we're done with cars until we return back to the Midwest. That is really, really exceptional. And it's something that for me, knowing I have 3 kids in booster or car seats, you know, between them, none of them are just sitting in a seat of the car yet. And that alone, traveling far away and flying, if it's not Disney World, I have to think, okay, once we land, are we renting a car? If we're renting a car, are we renting seats or are we flying with them? What is happening? How are my kids going to be safe in this car? I don't have to worry about that for, 10 days. If I go on a long trip to Disney, 5 days if I go on a short one, whatever it is, we fly, we get onto property. You don't need your car. It's all taken care of. The networks of transportation, which we're going to cover on this show this season, make it to where you can get anywhere you want to go in a quick, convenient, free, and fun way.
And I actually would take it a step further and say that having a car is somewhat of an inconvenience. I mean, Allie, you know this because you were on the trip with me. We were just talking about how we wanted to go to Epcot and then we were going to hop to Hollywood Studios afterwards. I was going to take my car and then I'm like, do I park it at Epcot and then I have to move it? Even though the Skyliner is going to be so much more practical of a way to get over to Hollywood Studios, I feel like when you're staying off site, you need that. You need the rental car. You're dealing with the car seats. You're dealing with, it's like New York City where a car is kind of an inconvenience. You want to just be able to jump on the bus or the subway in that case. Here, you want to jump on the bus, the Skyliner, the monorail, and not be worried about moving your car around.
Yeah, and we were staying on the monorail. And part of the reason we were taking a car was because we were ending at Hollywood Studios, and that was going to get a little sticky with the buses afterward. There were a lot of us. And so we were thinking we would drive, but there was a good portion of our group. We were with a lot of people that were thinking, well, I'll just hop on the monorail. I don't mind. It's quick. It's easy. I don't have to get in that parking lot, walk all the way across. The monorail drops you off right at the gate. And so even when you have a car, you're right. It feels like an inconvenience because you are truly in an immersive world. You're somewhere where reality, a car is part of our everyday reality, but knowing that it's literally not part of your reality when you're on a Disney vacation and you're inside that bubble, it's mind-blowing as a mom.
Especially now with the option to have groceries delivered. Like I always get snacks. Maybe it's like some bananas, a little bit of oatmeal, things like that. So I'm not always eating necessarily food from on property. And now having access to that for me, Allie, I'm like you. Obviously, I live up in Washington State. We have to fly. There's no driving even in the cards. But having that option, it makes it so that there's no reason for us to get a car anymore. Unless maybe, and even now, like with the minivans, MINNIE vans at Disney, which are the like Uber, Lyft options, you can just grab one of those and still have the magic of Disney and not have to stress about having a rental vehicle or your own vehicle on property. It just makes it so much easier.
Well, and here's another one of those situations where Disney has handled it for you, right? The Lyft service of the minivan, it's not complimentary. It's not included in your stay. So it does cost extra. However, my family was down at Disney World for the reopening of Happily Ever After, which is the big fireworks show that everybody loves at Magic Kingdom. The park was so insanely crowded that night. I mean, everybody was so excited to see the show again. It returned last April. Opening night, it was so fun to be there, but afterward was a little overwhelming. You know, everybody's trying to leave the park at the same time and you're all at the bus stops. And my wife and I decided to get a minivan that night. We still have our kids in seats. Minivans have those seats, you know, even this paid service that Disney has. So we had to pay a little to use it. The minivan driver installs the car seats for you. You don't have to wonder if they're going to have them. They do have them. And we were able to quickly, safely, and comfortably get back to our resort. So even in circumstances like that, it still is just so much more thought out. You know, you can't take a minivan to your off-site hotel.
Even the Ubers have, and this is, I think, one of only 2 places inside the entire country that Disney worked with Uber to have Uber car seat available. And now with Uber car seat, they can only bring 1 car seat. So for you, Allie, that's going to be rough because you have the 3 with boosters. And with minivans, they do have the 2 car seats.
Right.
I love that Uber car seat is available and that they've taken that extra step to, again, take care of you and provide that. Uber with the car seat option can usually be extremely inexpensive. You can get around property for $10, $15. They do go off site too. So that kind of helps with me living here. I kind of live off site, I've said before.
Yeah, I didn't even know that because we always use the minivan because of the 2 car seats. So I didn't even know about that option. That's great. The other thing is the perks of staying in the bubble. And I think this is kind of my last happy about it. It really wraps it all up. We've talked about the feeling and the immersion, of course, but you know, even something as simple as your Magic Band, when you're staying outside of the bubble or you're visiting the bubble, you really only use your Magic Band for park purposes, for scanning into the park and using your lightning lanes. But when you're staying in the bubble and you're not leaving, a Magic Band makes it to where you don't need a credit card or cash or a room key. You know, your Magic Band is a one-stop shop. I can charge on it. I can open my resort room door with it, as well as accessing all of the park things. And for me, I always laugh because the first time I need a credit card after a Disney stay is usually at the Orlando airport Starbucks. And every time I get to that dang Starbucks in the terminal, I'm like, oh, crud. I got to take off my Magic Band. I got to dig through, find my bank card. And a week of just being able to tap my wrist, it's a quick way to spend money. You know, because just tap, tap, tap. But it's so easy and so convenient. And I love having that option.
I think that feeling of like irritation that you have when you have to get your card out, I think that shows you just how convenient the Magic Band really is. It's like, can we as a society establish some sort of bracelet where I can just tap it? Like, come on.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, it's like Apple Pay, right? But it's like Disney Pay. It's just Disney, everything. It brings it all together. It's so great. And of course, when you stay in the bubble, Disney provides other perks like that dining window that we've talked about on the show where you get to make your dining reservations for a longer stretch of time at your 60-day before check-in mark, and your individual lightning lane priority opens before people that are staying outside the bubble. So Disney does a great job in making staying in the bubble worth it, not just for the experience, but also for the perks you're going to get. Your vacation's going to level up because you're allowed to do things that somebody staying outside the bubble is not allowed to do. So let's use that then to transition us into grumpy, things that make us happy to things that make us unhappy. I don't know that I have any. You know, nothing about the bubble makes me grumpy. I guess that's personally my point. I'm just so happy from the time I arrive on property till the time I leave.
I feel like I'm being petty with this because, like, I'm obviously a grown-up and I understand that it has to happen, but construction inside the bubble will make me grumpy. It's not supposed to be like this.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's like everything that makes me grumpy about the bubble is I feel so petty because everything is so perfect, but you're probably
Yes.
right. I mean, construction can happen anywhere, right? And if we want Disney to stay Disney World and stay so pristine and amazing, obviously they have to do upgrades and refurbs, but we do regularly stay, let's say at the Polynesian, right? And the Polynesian has been under construction for quite a while now. They're building a new building, and that can be irritating. I mean, Disney does a great job at making construction during hours that, families and guests are typically away from the resort and the parks and things. You want to just believe that Disney can be perfect without construction.
Yes, magically.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a great job at the Poly, because it would have been like easy to just completely shut down and not have a walking path between the Grand and the Poly. Like that would have been like the default. And they kind of like redesigned the walking path you have to go a little bit further, but they will always take the steps to make the guest experience amazing.
Of course, even with, sometimes pools have to be shut down. And I think Disney does a great job shutting down pools for refurbishment, usually in sort of months that may be colder. Chris and I were on a trip together in January. We stayed at Saratoga Springs, and I noticed the main resort pool there was closed during our stay. It was chillier, so I can't imagine. I mean, people do swim year-round at Disney, absolutely. But I can't imagine it would have been these exceptionally busy pool days that were happening during that time. So, Disney did a good job on that refurbishment, making it during a lower swim time, let's say. It can be frustrating and it can be a nuisance, but again, it can also happen anywhere.
Well, and for me, I wouldn't even call it necessarily grumpy, but the piece for me is the initial sticker shock of seeing, like you said, LJ, is when you're comparing to like an off-site option, you do see that things off property are typically going to be cheaper. But then once you start to actually, like you said, stack up all the things that you're actually going to get on property, having magic bands, having those early ADRs, everything like that, it makes such a huge difference that now, like I've said before, is that for me, it's a no-brainer. We always stay on property now. And we did it as a kid. We were in that era where we were able to get into like all-star movies. I think the cheapest we got it was like $49 a night to stay on property. Yeah, it was well, and we also, like you said, we always went in the off season. So we always kind of came down early February. We always kind of timed it to the Daytona 500 for my dad and my grandpa. And doing that option, it kind of ruined me actually, is because I grew up having that Disney bubble, that first time when we walked into All-Star Movies and you walk in and the doors open up and you see literally just the check-in counter, it was so exciting for me as a kid. And watching that happen, that I think is the hard part now as an adult, having to be the one to pay for this vacation, is seeing that sticker shock initially, but then reminding myself, it's like, okay, yeah, I could save $20 here or there, but then you actually add up the fact that, I can't get my resort mug at this other place and get to just go constantly refill it up. And like, I was so excited at 5:30 in the morning on our arrival day to get that resort mug and have my little breakfast. It was so funny because my younger sister was just laughing at me. It truly is all those little things that make it not a grumpy aspect anymore for me. It makes it a no-brainer piece.
Yeah, my only other grumpy would be maybe Animal Kingdom Lodge. I love so much. I don't love that Animal Kingdom theme park only has bus transportation to get to it. So that's not really a Disney bubble grumpy. I mean, I guess it kind of is, because no matter where you're staying, you can't take anything but a bus or drive to Animal Kingdom. So I guess even taking the bus from a resort is easier than driving in. So I still think it's not even that grumpy. I just wish that Animal Kingdom had an alternative transportation. That's, again, me being a little petty, maybe a little spoiled. But let's use that as an opportunity to talk about Sleepy and talk about the resorts obviously, I love talking about resorts, especially in the Disney bubble. But I want to use this as an opportunity to talk about two that we haven't touched much on the podcast. And that's Port Orleans. And the reason I want to talk about it is because Port Orleans has two separate resorts, basically. There's Port Orleans Riverside and Port Orleans French Quarter. And the reason I want to talk about them is because Number one, these are moderate level resorts. Disney has value, moderate, and deluxe resorts. And at that moderate price, you can find them, especially with a promotion or an off season, extremely reasonable. And they have a boat to Disney Springs, which when we're talking about the Disney bubble, we have to talk about Disney Springs, the shopping and eating and entertainment district that Disney offers that a lot of families will use on their down day or arrival or departure day. And having a resort that only offers you buses to the parks, is totally fine. Again, I think it's better than driving. But having that boat to Disney Springs and allowing you to expand the bubble in that way is really, really nice. And with both of those sister resorts, you're actually able to use the amenities at both. So when we've stayed at Riverside, we've used the pool over at French Quarter, which is really fun. You're kind of getting a dual experience. I just think it's a great property. It's really fun. It's two vibes. It has Mickey beignets, over at the French Quarter, which is maybe my favorite Mickey snack.
Ellie, it's so funny that you mentioned this one. After I had stayed off property the 15 times, the first time that I ever stayed on property was at Port Orleans Riverside. It was while they had free dining back in the day. And this goes back to Chris's point, the sticker shock of I think just comparing the Red Lion Inn cost compared to Port Orleans Riverside, you're going to get all kinds of bad feelings if that's what you're comparing. And things like not needing a rental car, not paying for parking, and all those types of things as well that I wasn't calculating at first. It made Riverside much closer in cost to our other trips that we had taken. And I was really excited about that because it's a moderate, it's not even a value.
Right.
And we loved it. I mean, obviously it sold me because that was the first of probably at this point hundreds of on-site stays. I've stayed now at Port Orleans Riverside and not gone to the parks at all. That's how lovely it is. It's gorgeous spending the time there. I love French Quarter as well. I love the vibes. They're so good.
Yeah, they have horse and carriage rides there sometimes, and that's where you can fish. And there are walking paths and playgrounds, and it's a great place to be. It's wonderful, and you have such easy, quick access. Another resort that would fall into that category would be Old Key West. So that's going to be a deluxe. It's usually the least expensive deluxe, and the rooms are very, very big. But you can take the boat to Disney Springs as well, and they also have golf. That's where one of the golf courses are. So if you have somebody in your family that loves to golf, on a down day, that's a great way to integrate that into your vacation. And so looking at the resorts that offer, all of the resorts are going to offer those pool parties that we discussed. A lot of them are going to offer s'mores on the lawn or movies at night, things like that. But also looking at how your resort experience can expand the bubble and really give you the best opportunity to experience as much as possible. That's a great strategy when you're thinking about Sleepy and the resorts.
The last time, well, actually it's 2 trips ago now for me, I went and actually took about a half of a day and just went and explored resorts on my own. And I did the monorail loop. So I went and actually walked around the Grand Floridian, which I'd kind of done. You jump out real quick, but not really taking the time to walk outside and walk kind of through the buildings and see everything. But I started actually over at Wilderness Lodge. It's themed after the Pacific Northwest. And I was like, I don't want to go to Disney and stay essentially at home. I want to feel something totally different. And it is now at the top of my priority list to take my husband there because his dream is to have a log cabin. And this is the closest thing he's ever going to get from me. So but having that aspect and getting to see the resort, and it was one of the moments I actually took a picture of myself standing. I was probably, I think, 5 or 6 stories up. I went and kind of looked over the lobby, and the biggest grin I could have ever had. I'm pretty sure I didn't have any lips at that point because I was smiling so hard, because that moment of feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to take my husband here. He's going to fall in love with it. My husband, it is not a secret, he is not really a Disney fan. Traveling is a stress thing for him. And so trying to convert him and find that happy medium, the resort can really do that for you. And I think finding the right one to fit for your family or whoever you're traveling with makes a world of difference of how your vacation is going to go. And it's one of the things as a travel agent I love to do because it's a puzzle for me. It's figuring out, getting to know my families and seeing what they want and what really matters to them, what's the vibe that they're going for, all those aspects play such a factor into it. And I actually just had a client come home and they were saying like, oh yeah, we're going to try and go every other year. They're now looking at traveling in 6 months because I hit it so head on for them on that first resort, making it that magical experience that it made it the world a difference for them. And they're like, we're hooked. We need to go back. We need to have that feeling again. And it's, for me, it made all the warm and fuzzy feelings happen because it's the part that makes it the reason I love that Disney bubble aspect so much. Because like I said, where you're waking up in the morning, it's where you're laying your head at night. It's where you truly feel like you are home. So whether you're staying at All-Star Movies or you're staying at Beach Club, no matter what, Disney does such a great job at creating that atmosphere that it really feels like you're home away from home.
And that plays into the sneezy for me is the things I avoid in the Disney bubble. There are so few. That feels like the grumpy segment to me. I don't avoid much about the bubble. Even the thing I do avoid, which for me, it is the All-Star resorts only because the bus rides are the longest. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You still have the bus. It still works. It's still great. And the price is definitely right. It helps. Those All-Star resorts are amazing. The themes are great. And a lot of families can get to Disney because of them. So even in my avoidance, the long bus ride, that's me being petty again. I'm still getting where I need to go.
Can I say for my sneezy, what I'm avoiding when it comes to the Disney bubble is I'm avoiding all the work that goes along with not staying in it. That's what I want to avoid. I had done this segment, and I think this was like, I had just had Ace, so it must have been like around 2019. We're getting ready to sell the farm in Kentucky. So Mike was like, let me just stay home and I can get a bunch of stuff done if I'm not taking care of you guys, which Mike is like our family chef and everything. So he was basically like, I won't have to cook. I can just paint the barn, all these things, right? So I left, took the 5 kids, and I rolled down to Disney because where else are you going to go? And I needed to be gone for a little while, and it was kind of last minute. So I was piecing together like stays. I think I was down there for like almost 2 weeks maybe, but it was like 3 nights here, 4 nights there, 3 nights here, that kind of Frankenstein trip.
Yeah.
And I stayed on property. I stayed off, then I stayed on. And I thought it was going to be a great opportunity to do this kind of study in the difference and really show my audience what it's like to do both. And when we first got down there, thank God we were staying at the boardwalk. You roll up and they take your luggage and they put it in your room for you. And here I am with 5 kids. So that's hard enough, getting all my kids out of their car seats and into the stroller, and just getting there, just our people, is bad enough. So having Disney take all my things, lovely, right? Same with like the whole experience, like food is ready for me. We're going to the pool, life jackets are there. Just at no point did I ever need to mess with like cooking or trash or any of like the chores, right? Then flash forward, my days at Disney come to an end. I've got to move off site. So Disney takes my luggage to my car, lovely. But then I drive over off site and now I've got to unload the car. I've got to go. But some silly things, like they didn't have like the linens on the beds. Like I'm making the beds at this vacation home for my children, and of course there's no food anywhere near this complex. So if I want to get food for my children, I either need to make it or I need to get everybody in the car.
And you're not using your magic band to pay for it.
No, exactly. So just all the things that went along with it, the whole way through, you're doing all this extra work. Allie, you're not even going to believe this. The last day I'm checking out and there's like a to-do list. And this is fairly common now, like that you need to like pull the linens off the bed, start the first load of laundry. And this one took it further than I've ever seen. They made me put the trash in my van and take it to the dumpster in the back of the property. And I was like, this is what? Like, it's like I'm an employee of this VRBO now. Like I should get a paycheck.
Yeah.
So I'm avoiding all of that by staying in the bubble.
That's such a good point. That makes your vacation work. And the Disney bubble has no work. That's it. It's a feeling of things being easy. Life is easy. And people, when they think about Disney and they've never been, they're like, it's hot, it's crowded, it's a lot of walking, it's a lot of work. I disagree. I think all of those things are true. They're all true, of course. but it doesn't feel like that because it's not work. It's just easy. You can take it at your pace. You know what I was thinking too? When this one's kind of funny. The thing I avoid about the bubble is probably like the golf courses. I wonder how many golfers go and use I think they're really good. Like the 18-hole legitimate.
Yes, I think they're like the kind of courses that like people who golf are like, I've got to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am just not a golfer, so I'm not using them. I'm avoiding that. I'll do the mini golf courses though. Have y'all ever done those?
So fun. Oh my gosh. They have one. So they have two courses, and on each course, there's like a hard side and an easy side.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard side in the Fantasia one is one of the top 10 hardest mini golf courses in the world. I did not try that. We went down the easy side of that, but my kids just have the best time there. It's all, of course, themed, and it's designed so that your kids are going to have a blast. Like, they're going to be shocked that they're getting holes in one because the course is designed to delight them.
Yeah, it's so fun. We did that growing up. I haven't taken my kids yet because they're still on the younger side and it still feels like work to try to get them to figure out what they're doing. But I think we're getting close and it's on my to-do list for an upcoming trip. And for any smart moms listening to today's episode of the podcast, the hidden Mickey will be golf. What a fun thing to do on your downtime in the bubble.
Great way to, like my husband, you know, if you have that Disney doubter, that's a great way to pull the Disney doubter in. If they are a golfer, or maybe they are somebody that enjoys fishing or something like that, you can, so many different aspects of the Disney bubble can pull people in and they can still have that relaxing aspect. For me, it's a little bit of a dock strategy just because my brother-in-law isn't a huge Disney person, but getting to golf the 4 golf courses at Disney is so high on his bucket list. So we've said that we would trade him. He can have one golfing day each time we go. So we know we're at least getting 4 trips out of him to go with us. So
that's excellent. That is like my dock strategy as well. My dock strategy is extend your stay. Figure out the way that you can do this to have, you know, more than a 3-night stay so that you can have the down day, so that you can experience the bubble, the activities, the things, the relaxation that comes along with Disney that most people think doesn't exist. That is the best dock, in my opinion. What about you, LJ? What's your strategy?
Oh man, I just want to say the same thing and not do the work.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect transition, right, to Dopey. That alone, undervaluing the experience and thinking that like savings is greater than the experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not, they don't match up.
Honestly, when you really do the math, and I'm a math person, if anyone's ever read my book, you will know that it's like chock full of math. I'm a math person and it doesn't make sense to stay off property.
Those hidden fees are just going to come and get you.
Yeah. I am so out there and I'm just so sad when like my headboard doesn't have Mickey's head carved in it. I just need that in my life. I think that a lot of people this can close out our 7s here as bashful. You know, I think so many of our listeners, so many families that want to travel to Disney just feel like it's unattainable. And that's not true. I've helped so many families with so many different goals and budgets and things like that. And it is attainable, and it is attainable in the bubble. And not knowing the difference is something I think that people are really bashful about, that really holds them back, you know? And hopefully this episode alone can start to open the possibility that there's more to consider than just, you know, which day am I going to the 4 parks and then that's all that matters.
How about this question? Do you think there's ever an appropriate time to stay outside the Disney bubble? Like a time that it really, really makes sense?
That's a great question. Large groups that want to stay together. There are circumstances.
Over how many? 12?
Well, you know, it depends because even 12 can get 3 different rooms, you know, next to each other and they'll be fine. In my experience, when I'm helping families, it's those large groups that want to stay together that have a harder time wanting to experience the bubble. And I typically even still think, you know, hey, spend your whole day together, meet up really early and don't separate till really late and sleep in 3 or 4 separate rooms and do it that way, because I still think that's going to be a better experience.
I agree with that. I think that the number for me is that if you have a party greater than 6 and you want to, it's like very important to stay in the exact room. That's when going up to like a 2-bedroom becomes more costly than doing a house or something like that. The other thing is if you have kids or somebody in your party who has a severe allergy and you need to do most of your cooking, like if you need a full kitchen, then offsite is going to be significantly less expensive than if you were to do a 1-bedroom, which has a kitchen, or 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. You can
you can get a full kitchen.
Yes, you definitely
on property.
can.
The cabins and the villas.
And the DVC studios have kitchenettes, so if that's all you're looking for, you can still be pretty safe. I'm definitely not in the camp where I'm like, there's not a time when it makes sense to stay offsite. I disagree. I just think that for the large majority, you should be on site.
Well, and it comes down to, there are circumstances, I completely agree with you, that it makes sense to stay off site. You just have to be sure that you're willing and able and ready to give up a lot of the joy and perks, that we've discussed in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can make that still make sense, then you can still have, a great time.
I love how your voice sounds with this. You're just like, you can, I swear, it can be done. It really can be. We've had some amazing offsite stays. I mean, you got to remember, like, those 15 trips that I took offsite, that was enough to, like, make me change my life. The trip that changed my life was offsite. The trip that made me decide that I want to make this Disney thing a way bigger part of my life was offsite. So if you are in that situation, I don't want you to be sad. I want you to know that it can still be literally life-changing and a complete game changer for you, because it was with me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if I'm being really honest, I've never stayed off-site. The bubble has been important to me my whole life. But I have helped people stay off-site, and I know that there's still something to be said for that, for sure.
There's joy to be had.
Yeah, just different joy. We are going to take our next break, and we come back, we will hit our next segment.
Hey, it's Becky from Smart Moms Podcast. So you keep hearing this word, Disney bounding, but maybe you don't know quite what it means. Or maybe you're already a Disney bounder and love showcasing your Disney fandom in the parks. Either way, come join us on Facebook at the Disney Bounding Community by Smart Moms Travel. We play games, plan outfits, do giveaways and challenges, and support each other in adding just a little bit of pixie dust to both your Disney vacations as well as your day-to-day. Find the link in the show notes, and I hope to see you soon in the Disney Bounding Community Facebook group.
Hey y'all, it's LJ here. Welcome to the fairest segment of them all. You already heard that I stayed off property a bazillion times before I finally bit the bullet to stay on property. After that, I really dug into want to know the numbers and want to know, what am I actually paying to really stay on property? Let me add up all the things. It's such a small gap between staying off property and staying on property. But I also want to talk a little bit more about where you're staying in regards to, as you're planning your Disney vacation and making this choice. I think the biggest, most important decision that you make when you're planning your Disney vacation is where you're going to stay. Inside that decision, the biggest toggle is whether you're going to stay on site or off site. And I just want to implore upon you, please stay on site. I have done it. I've done it. And I'm just telling you, the experience is going to be so much better if you stay inside the Disney bubble. And I own Smart Moms Travel. So as a travel agency owner, we make commission on what we book. And I just want you to know that we make more money, usually a higher percentage, on off property stays. We make a lower percentage when we do on property. So we're not telling you out of any kind of self-serving interest. We just want you to have a better experience. So the Disney bubble is just everything, friends. It's such a difference. It's so much more joy. It's so much more happiness. It's such a better experience. For me, please, as a favor, if you right now are booked off site, go look and see if you can cancel and get on site. If you're not booked and you go to compare the two, throw an extra 15 points on Disney property, because it's going to be so much better. It's going to be such a better experience. We did not talk about Good Neighbor hotels, which are not on property, but are hotels that Disney has a relationship with. If you just simply cannot stay on property, everything's booked, my next best choice for you would be to do a Disney Good Neighbor hotel, because you can still book directly with Disney for that, and they will help with a lot of things. I feel like Disney holds them to a high standard. I've stayed at Good Neighbor hotels and I've been pleasantly surprised with their customer service. I think they're a valid option. I'm surprised we didn't bring them up sooner in this conversation. But it would go like this: stay on Disney property, then book a Good Neighbor hotel. Then if you can't do that, book off site. And if you can't do that, a cardboard box under an overpass somewhere, because any Disney is better than no Disney.
Hey, hold up. Looking for the ultimate Disney and Universal experience? What about vacations on both the West and East Coasts? Look no further, it's Kristanie, one of your podcast co-hosts that'll take you along on my coast-to-coast adventures like never before. Come follow along on Instagram at the Polyjuice Princess, your go-to source for all things Disney and Universal. From the iconic castle at Disney to the thrilling rides at Universal Studios, I've got you covered. Shoot me a DM with the word podcast to receive exclusive content for my followers. See you real soon.
All right, welcome back. It is time for the lightning lane. Before we hit the lightning lane, we were just saying any Disney is better than no Disney.
So true.
LJ and I were laughing, saying we would, stay in a box and it could still be amazing. And I truly believe all the things I'm saying. I said on a previous episode, any month can be the best month to go. I truly believe that, as much as I believe just going to Disney is better than not. The bubble is obviously something we want everybody to experience, but Disney is Disney. Are you ready for the lightning lane, ladies?
So ready.
I need fast answers, okay?
Okay.
When you are staying on site, what perk is better? LJ, Genie Plus or Advanced Dining Window?
Genie Plus.
Individual lightning lane.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Chris, what about pool day or water park day on your extended down day?
Pool day for me.
Ooh, LJ, what about you?
I would say water park. My kids love the water parks. They're so inexpensive and it tires them out in a way that just nothing else does. So I know they're going to get a really good night's sleep. If you haven't done it, you guys out there in radio world, put it on your list to look into going to the water parks.
Yeah, for sure. With older kids especially. Chris, would you rather dine at Disney Springs or resort dining?
Disney Springs Boathouse specifically.
Ooh, yes, truffle fries. LJ, split stay or one resort?
One resort. In my younger days, when I was trying to experience everything, absolutely split stay. But now I feel like I've stayed at all the resorts. I've stayed at, I think, almost all the room categories even. I just am like, let me just rest my bones.
Yeah. Chris, what about you? One resort or split stay?
I'm doing split stays now. I've done a split stay my last trip, and it made all the difference. And LJ, you said it perfectly, is that I haven't stayed at all the resorts. And so when I'm coming down, I only get to come down maybe once a year. And so I want to get to experience multiple locations. And Disney makes it so easy to do a split stay. You just take your luggage down. And I know it'll probably be a little different when I actually start bringing my daughter with me and having to pack up all her stuff as well. But I still think we'll probably end up doing split stays just to experience different things, and also to have the location maybe closer to the parks or closer to the thing that we're going to be enjoying for the few days while we're, obviously I'm not going to stay at Beach Club and go to Animal Kingdom, but on our Epcot day, that's where I want to stay.
There is something so lovely about doing a split stay. Just when you're feeling kind of like that mid-vacation, like lull, like looking forward to like, now we're going to Beach Club. And I highly recommend that you do like value to moderate or moderate to deluxe. And like the end part of your trip is nicer.
Don't try to go from like Beach Club to All-Star. That could be really tough.
That could backfire.
Yeah, don't do that. Would you, if staying on site was only financially possible, if you cut on the resort you were staying at or cut out a park day, which would you cut? LJ?
I feel like I need more information. Am I
It's lightning lane.
Wait, so I can still stay on property is what you're saying?
You may have to cut a resort day even. You have to go one less day at a value, but you can make it happen, or you have to cut a park day.
I'm staying on property, period. Like whatever has to happen, it's happening.
That's a good answer. Chris, would you rather stay on the monorail or the Skyliner?
Well, now I want to stay on the monorail because I haven't experienced it yet. So the Skyliner I love, though. It's probably my favorite mode of transportation Disney has now.
Is that your favorite, LJ?
I would probably rather stay on the monorail, but I do love love the Skyliner. And I especially love that you can stay on the Skyliner at any price point, whereas the monorail is like deluxe only.
Yeah, I love staying on the monorail, but yeah, the Skyliner can be anything. We're going to cover transportation, like I said, on this show, but I love riding the Skyliner so
Same.
much.
It's like such a good ride. You're on a ride, but you're getting somewhere. You're not even there yet.
Exactly. Well, this was fun, ladies. I am so excited for season 2 and what's to come. We are covering topics that are going to be so helpful to all of our listeners that are planning or thinking about planning. And it's just going to be a really great time. So be sure to follow along. That is going to do it for us today on the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. Again, if you are planning, looking at planning, or ready to start planning again, and you don't already have a Smart Moms travel agent to help, be sure to check out the link in our bio or show notes to get connected with a free Smart Moms travel agent of your own. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts and on all social media platforms at Smart Moms Plan Disney Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you real soon.